All right, let's get into our mailbag. First question. Hey, Jason, I'm from Brazil. Love the show. I've learned a lot from you the last 2 years, and I usually agree with most of your takes. I'm always impressed by your knowledge of the game and how well you break the plays down and analyze them. Luka is my favorite player since Allen Iverson, and I've learned to appreciate LeBron, which was hard at first because I'm an MJ guy. However, I don't see a world where the Lakers will be able to take the beating and win multiple playoff series without a reliable center. It's just too much to ask. Luka has really disappointed me as a defender recently and has shown some decline in his lateral movement to the point of becoming a liability at the point of attack, even though he's an okay post defender and a good rebounder. I can easily see teams like Minnesota, Denver, Golden State, and others putting Luka and Austin in ball screens and attacking them without any rim protection in the back line to make up for it. What kind of scheme can they use to avoid being put in rotation all the time? I used to hate the Lakers, but now I find myself rooting for them because of Luka. I just want to have some hope that they won't be embarrassed in a playoff series for their lack of defense. Again, it's a bend but not break kind of concept. I like the idea of switching within the context of this roster. And again, it's not about letting Austin and Luka get run through a million ball screens. You don't want them running through screens. You want them switching, and then when they end up on the ball, there are things you can do, like you can scram guys out of mismatches. That was something they tried to do against Charlotte. They just botched a rotation at the back. You can gap and shrink those driving lanes and make it so it's harder for them to attack. You can tell them to play off and try to bait the guy they're guarding into taking pull-up jump shots. And if they're playing off and there's guys in the gaps, it's like, are you going to drive into three bodies or are you going to take a pull-up three, right? And maybe if you bait an opponent into taking a bunch of pull-up jump shots while your offense is executing the crap out of them on the other end of the floor, that can go a long way towards that base type of scheme working. I'm not worried about the center position really outside of the Jokic matchup. And even then, like Jokic used to eat Anthony Davis up. So like, I don't see how that really makes much of a difference within the context of LeBron in Luka. It's vertical spacing really that you need from that position. And Jackson does a good job of that. I think Jackson's been really good since the Anthony Davis trade. What you hit on, which I am actually worried about, is the ability to take a beating. Like you talked about, I do think they can double and rotate and get a certain amount of stops against Nikola Jokic. I do think that they can switch and contain and get a certain amount of stops against other teams. But the question is, can they do it over and over and over again for 2 weeks against a team like Denver, for 4 playoff rounds against a bunch of different kinds of teams? And they do have a thin rotation. They have like 7 guys that I really trust, right? It's like LeBron, Luka, Austin, Dorian Finney-Smith, Rui, Gabe, and who am I missing? And Vando, right? And then like even Vando, it's a question mark. Jackson Hayes, there's some question marks there, right? So like you get an injury there. Dorian Finney-Smith goes down. That's catastrophic. You can't overcome that. Jackson Hayes goes down. Now you're playing Jared Vanderbilt or Alex Len or Christian Koloko or Trey Jemison at the center. That's not something you can overcome. Like there are a few guys now in their lineup that are like absolutely vitally important in terms of if they get injured, you're in big trouble. And so that's where my major concerns lie, is like, I worry about Jokic just wearing them down over a playoff series and just destroying them on the offensive glass. I worry about them getting spaced out by teams like Boston. And then I worry about them breaking down. If you're going to play small ball, you need guys like LeBron to rebound really well. That's just really exhausting for him to have to do a lot. Feels like Tatum's been shooting the ball a lot better this year, but he's still only shooting 36% from 3, as he takes a lot of tough pull-ups that drags his efficiency down. I've seen arguments that even so, his tough pull-up is still critical to opening up room for the whole offense. Do you agree with that view on his shot diet? Yes, he has hurt his efficiency by taking a lot of really tough shots. But there's 2 things that's helped overcome it, in my opinion. First of all, he's shooting better off the dribble. He's up over a point per shot off the dribble. That's the key one. It's becoming a situation, especially in ISO, where like it used to be, it's like, oh, just bait Tatum and to take in a tough step back and he'll probably miss most of them. And like now that's a battle he's winning more often than not. I think that will especially become valuable when he gets into the postseason and late clock shot making increases in value exponentially compared to the regular season. That's why we call them playoff shots, right? The second piece of it with Tatum is just his overall command of games. He has gotten so good at identifying the flow of each game, what each game actually demands from Tatum in any specific situation, and adapting his skill set to fit whatever that demand is. And that's why, like, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of evaluating teams based on ratings. I don't necessarily look at the box score as an indicator of how good Jason Tatum is at basketball. He's been a 25, 10, and 5 guy for as long as we can remember. It's about the impact. It's about how he does it within the context of each individual basketball game. Jason, why doesn't Tatum get more love as a future face of the league? Not that the conversation really matters much anyway, but he never gets brought up. American grown, 26-year-old champion, top 5 guy whose jersey sales have been top 3 to 5 and is quite polarizing. Just seems like he doesn't get any love compared to other guys. Not sure if it's an anti-Celtics bias or what the national media's reason is. Love the show. Would love your insight. I straight up cannot even begin to care or ever be concerned with who the face of the NBA is. It hasn't meant anything in my entire time that I've been a fan of this game. I've never even felt like there was a single face of the NBA. Even through the LeBron era, it felt like LeBron and Kobe, then LeBron and KD, then LeBron and Steph. It never felt it to me. The marketability of the stars of the league is a big picture concept that centers around the entire set of stars and how marketable all of them are. Now, I do think that there's a conversation to be had about the fact that there just aren't as many very popular young American players as years past. And some of that has been Zion not taking care of his body. Some of that has been Ja Morant in his off-court antics, getting himself into trouble. And you're right. Ant and Tatum kind of seem like the only 2 guys in a lot of ways. Tatum, the reason why he doesn't get as much buzz in terms of his personality is he's got a very muted personality. Jason Tatum is a pretty chill guy who doesn't talk a ton of shit, who doesn't act super, he's not very performative in the media. He kind of just takes care of business and goes home. And so, Jason Tatum doesn't have the sort of big picture reputation that some of these other players have, but that has more to do with him than anything to do with the league. And frankly, he shouldn't care. I don't care. I don't talk to many people who care. It's one of those things that I see it on ESPN. I see it on Twitter, people arguing about it occasionally, but I can't think of any reason why we even waste time talking about who the face of the league is. It doesn't mean anything to me, to be frank. Hey, I love the content you put out and the breakdown you do on the game of basketball. Just a question about regular season dominance and whether it's an overall plus or not. As a Thunder fan, I believe they are clearly the best team in the league this year. The Celtics have proven it in the playoffs, but clearly don't care about the regular season as much. I've heard you talk about how attacking the regular season every day and building up good habits is a strong indicator for a contender. So I question why you see the Thunder with 10 losses and a dominant regular season as inflated, and why the Celtics with 16 losses and disinterested as title favorites. Clearly, the Thunder are building the foundation of good habits and have done it while significantly injured. So I believe they deserve the top spot in the contender rankings. What you consider to be the Celtics being disinterested is top 5 in offense, top 5 in defense, 6th in defensive rebounding. So the way I look at Boston is a very good regular season team that has punted some games, but in the aggregate has been really fucking good still in the concept of the regular season, in the context of the regular season, I should say. And then, as I talked about in the opening segment involving the Celtics, I look at everything within the context of matchup to matchup, how versatile is a team, how capable are they of winning 4 playoff rounds. To me, the regular season performance is more of just a mandatory minimum. If you're not one of the top 10 records in the NBA, if you're not consistently every single night providing a certain baseline average performance on either end of the floor that's keeping you sharp as a basketball team, I'm pretty much going to disqualify you as a contender in a lot of ways in terms of being a serious contender. But once you're in that group, to me now it's you kind of have to parse out things. Because guess what? I talked about this the other day. Every single player in the core 8 rotation for the Thunder is 26 or younger. You look at the core rotation for the Celtics, and it's a lot of older guys. Jason Tatum's 26. A lot of the other guys are older. They've got guys in their 30s. They're not going to be as athletically engaged night in, night out as Oklahoma City is going to be. You get into a series, let's pretend it's the NBA Finals. Do you think the fact that the Thunder played harder in December and January is going to matter to the Boston Celtics? when they're in TD Garden and they're playing super hard because they have an opportunity to win the trophy. Now, all of a sudden, it comes down to parsing out the details. I still get concerned about, and we're going to talk about this. I might as well skip ahead to it if I can find the question, the one about OKC. Here it is. Hey, Jason, love the show. And you're the truth when it comes to hoops breakdown. You spoke on how OKC's defense is the ultimate calling card and them having a rating way above everyone else's in the league. It reminds me of the same discourse around the Celtics in 2022 when they went to the finals. What similarities do you notice between the Celtics in 2022 and the OKC defense now? Celtics unfortunately lost in the finals, but is the defensive rating a full indicator that OKC will get to the finals this year? And would you take the C's 2022 defense or the OKC defense this year as the best defenses you've seen in the current era? They are similar in a lot of ways, right? Because like that C's team with Robert Williams had like a rim protection version, but then with Horford at center, they had like more of a switching type of version. Same sort of thing with the Thunder. They have these small groups where they're doing a ton of switching, but then they also have the ability to use Chet at the basket, right? There's like a kind of similar vibe there. Both teams won games with their defense, but had issues from time to time on the offensive end of the floor, which we'll get to in a minute. I think I would personally take the C's defense just because they were bigger on the perimeter. Oklahoma City has a lot of guys in the like 6'4", 6'5" range. The Celtics were putting out lineups where you would have, Derek White and Marcus Smart, but you'd have Jason Tatum, you'd have Jaylen Brown in addition to their bigs on the floor. So they just had a little bit more size, a little bit more strength that I think presented teams with more problems on the defensive end of the floor. Now, as far as OKC and their specific calling card, the thing that I think they do that revolutionizes the game in their own way is aggression and rotation. When you are aggressive on the ball, when you're trapping ball screens, when you're gapping and overhelping and really throwing a lot of resources in the direction of the ball, you create weak side 2-on-1s. Meaning situations where you have a shooter in the corner, shooter on the wing with one guy there. And the Thunder are just so good at quickly disengaging from their aggressive coverage and recovering out to the perimeter. That's like their main thing that they do extremely well. But the offensive side of the floor, it's very similar to what we saw with Boston over the years in the sense that, like, if you remember in that game, if you guys remember in that game against, or that series against the Bucks in 2022, they repeatedly, time and time again, kept challenging Brook Lopez right at the rim instead of taking easy kickout passes. When I look back at the Mavericks series last year, same sort of thing. Jalen Williams in particular doing a lot of like trying to finish through Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively at the basket. And it's just, that's a really low percentage shot. You need to be making those extra kickout passes. There is a thing that happened with the Celtics where they learned between 2022 and 2024 to be more deliberate with their shot selection, to get the great shot instead of the good shot. And that is what pushed them over the top. And I still maintain that's the main barrier between the Thunder and where they want to get and where they are now. It's that offensive process piece. Inevitably, they're going to run into some great defense that makes them super uncomfortable, and they're going to have to really break a defense down. This is actually a perfect tee up into our second to last question. We have two more. What happened to all the concerns that everyone, including you, had of the Celtics when it comes to offensive execution against an elite defense? They had no real opposition in the East last year. Dallas was their best matchup out West because of how bad Luka was defensively, basically granting them an assured advantage every possession. Did everyone already forget the last 5 years of basketball? I've seen way too many occasions where Tatum and Brown just settled for contested jumpers when things get tight. Also, similar to your concerns for Jokic shooting last year, are you not concerned about Brown and Holiday? They are shooting 32 and 33% from three. That's a legitimate concern. The Celtics aren't shooting particularly well. Those guys are going to have to shoot better if they want to have more margin for error when they get to the postseason. I think that's legitimate. However, Jason Tatum's 26 years old. When you say like, oh, the last 5 years of basketball, you want us to factor in Tatum when he was 21 when we're talking about what they can do? I think there's this misconception that when I talk about any concept, whether it's boxing out, containing the ball, making good decisions, running back in transition defense, that it means you do it every single time. Every team, even the Thunder, even the Celtics, even the Cavs, will make bad decisions on offense, miss box outs, not get back in transition defense, just in general make execution errors. Everyone makes execution errors. It's about a ratio. How frequently are you making those execution errors? Yes, Tatum still takes bad shots. Yes, Jaylen Brown still takes bad shots. Yes, the Celtics have stretches where their offense looks bad. It is much fewer and much further between than it used to be. And I'd actually argue the Celtics have been particularly great this year at identifying when they're losing control of things and recentering themselves on offense and making those better decisions on offense that get them back on track. Kind of felt like the opposite in years past, where they would play good basketball and then they would lose sight of it. And especially when things got hard, they would revert to bad habits. It feels like the opposite of that now. I don't think the Celtics are impervious. I think they could lose in the East. I think they could lose in the West. I'm not sitting here and viewing them as like the 2017 Warriors or anything like that. But I think they deserve more credit for their offensive development over the course of the last few years. All right, last question. Hey, Jason, love the show. Thank you for taking the time to help educate us that didn't play basketball at a high level. It's great to get your perspective, and it's only fitting my question is best suited for a player like yourself. When I'm watching Luka the last few games with LA, it doesn't look like he's just playing bad basketball. It looks like he's broken mentally. It's crazy as fans we're programmed to be upset with players when they leave their teams, but when organizations trade players, it's just business. Because of this, I don't think most people realize how big of an impact this has on an athlete. Watching Luka, his bad play the last few games has seemed psychological. Doesn't look like he's even having fun, and I don't think he's going to play any meaningful basketball again until he rediscovers his love for the game. To be clear, I don't think this will be a prolonged thing. I do think he'll get back on track, but I'm curious if you as a player could take us through your thoughts. Do you agree with me, or do you think his poor play is more of a lack of team chemistry? Thanks again. Love the show. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't think Luka's mentality or his mental state with all of this chaos over the course of the last few weeks isn't affecting him. Of course it's affecting him. I just think it's affecting him more when he's off the court. You know, basketball is, for guys like this too, like they love the game so much. I would argue that for a guy like Luka, this is when he's having the most fun. It's one of those things where it's like when you're going back to a different house or a different apartment than you usually go back to, and friends that you had in your old home are not there anymore, and you're building new friendships, but everything's still kind of in a fledgling stage. Like, I'm sure he has a lot of moments where he's struggling a bit outside of the Lakers facility, but basketball is the happy place for most of these guys. I think it's mostly chemistry. One of the things that made things hard for Luka is the Lakers played awesome in the stretch before he showed up. After the trade, he sat there and watched as LeBron and Austin played awesome and beat good teams. Luka has come into a situation with a team playing great. Hell, he just sat out last night and they played great again. So it's one of those things for Luka where I think he's reading the situation and he's trying really hard not to step on everyone's toes. That's the natural thing that happens every time you add a high volume ball handler to a team that already had ball handling. Everyone's going to start looking at each other and it's like, is it your turn? Is it my turn? I really could feel that at the tail end of the Charlotte game where it's like Luka's in a terrible rhythm and is playing poorly. LeBron clearly has it going. So Luka's trying to feed LeBron more because LeBron's got it going, but at the same time, like the Lakers need Luka to get going in order to get to where they want to go. That stuff is all going to take time. And what'll end up happening is different phases of the game will take on different feels. They will come out the gates. My guess is early on in games with the starters, they'll start leaning on Luka more. But then as different guys check in and out of the lineup, different guys will become more aggressive. LeBron will check out in the middle of the first quarter. Austin will start to be more aggressive, right? Luka will check out. LeBron will come in for the late first quarter group. That's when LeBron will really turn it on. We've seen a lot in recent weeks how in the early fourth quarter, LeBron is like, this is my time to really just fire every bullet I've got in my gun to get us as much of a lead as I can so that Luka can come in and close the deal. There will be flows to these games. And you feel it out. There will be games where it's like, hey, Lou Dort's on Luka. He's doing a good job. LeBron's got Jalen Williams. We should probably play through LeBron more. There will be other games where it's like they've got guys for Luka or for Austin, but they don't have guys for Luka and LeBron, or vice versa. And they're gonna kind of jerry rig it from game to game. But right now, it's a lot of, you can tell it's a couple different things. Luka's obviously very big and out of shape. That's going to take time. Luka's jump shot is completely broke right now. That won't be the case in the big picture. He's going to get it going. He's shooting a lot of really flat jump shots that are either way off the back rim or way short. Like that's just his jumper's way off. That's going to take time to figure out. He's out of rhythm as well, but he's also trying to figure out those chemistry things. It's going to take time. It's interesting as I look at the Lakers, even with the ugly basketball that they've played with Luka so far, I've already seen enough to know that I think they're going to be a great offense. I'm just not worried about that at all whatsoever. As soon as Luka gets it going, I think they're going to take off on offense. The questions are going to be centered around whether or not they can get enough stops in particular matchups to win multiple playoff rounds. All right, guys, that is all I have for today. As always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting me and supporting the show.